Picture this, right? You're a student in the mid-1960s. There is not a single phone in sight, and teachers are allowed to beat your ass. Can you imagine what the pressure must have been like to act like a good student? Like, they would just beat people up for no reason. What? Now let's fast forward 60-something years and take a look at schools now. Where did we go wrong? Well, pinpointing this answer isn't exactly the easiest thing to do, but we can make a pretty good guess as to when this started happening. Even just 10 years ago, student culture was so much more different than what it is now. And this isn't me trashing on anyone for anything. Listen, if you do that, then it's whatever, man. You do you, but I personally don't. I feel like everything in schools nowadays is just declining. Like the students, teachers, even everyone's morals too. We went from the prey to making teachers pray. 60 years ago, you couldn't get punished for just saying the word darn. Nowadays, people are getting away with smoking and having sex in the bathrooms. What did we do to sex, right? It used to be something that was so cherished because back in the day, back in like the 50s and 60s or so I hear, it was like if you had sex, you were terrible. You were a horrible person. Like people weren't losing their virginity till like late 20s, 30s, some people even mid 30s. It was pretty common to like be a virgin up until like your 30s back in the day. Nowadays, it's like if you're still a virgin by the time you turn 18, it's like what are you doing with your life? Like damn bro, you're a loser. Which I think is actually really dumb. My guess is that it can be like pinpointed down to something. There is a cause to it. You don't just go from like 8% of 18-year-olds being non-virgins to now it's like, what is it, like 50 or 60%? It's like the average age back in like the 50s to like lose your virginity was like 25, 30 years old. Nowadays, the average age to lose your virginity is like 17. It's like 17, 18 years old, which is crazy. I don't understand how that happened so quickly. Also, I don't know what the heck my hair is doing. It's like, I just took a shower, so. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is that it went from something so cherished. It was like, we may not do this activity until marriage. And then they waited till marriage and then they would do it. That's the story of like most parents back in the day. Whereas now it's like if you don't have sex before marriage, it's like you're weird or something. And I feel like it's a big societal pressure now too, because it's like when you're in high school, you're pretty much like almost socially pressured to like losing your virginity in high school. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm like holier than thou or something, because I'll be honest and admit that I've fallen victim to this too. I've fallen victim too to like feeling the pressure of having to lose your virginity in high school. Back like maybe 10, 20 years ago, it's like your parents, they would teach it to you, right? They're like, no, sex is a bad thing. Never have it. Which I mean, it makes sense because it's like you're kids. They obviously don't want you having that at a young age because that's like an adult activity, which is perfectly reasonable. But to me, it always felt like, man, you guys are like hypocrites. Cause like, how the hell am I born then? How am I walking this earth right now if you didn't do that? Like, I hate to be that guy, but you know what I'm gonna say? It's like, guys, the hub caused this. It was the hub. Otherwise, why the heck do we have like 12 and 13-year-olds asking each other for nudes? It's like, where did we go wrong? What happened? It's like, there's no other explanation to that other than like that moment. Pretty much everyone has fallen victim to this at some point in their life. I mean, I first got exposed to it when I was 13 years old. Then, you know, like that whole thing spirals out of control. Where it's like, oh man, you know, I could rub one off. Which nowadays, for me at least, I don't really find it that appealing anymore. It's just kind of like, it's so crazy how like we're getting exposed to this stuff at like such a young age to where we kind of have this expectation to have it as soon as possible. Cause like, you know, when we're 13 years old, we're in prime puberty years here. Like these are like some of the most important developmental years of our lives. And we're getting exposed to the most like craziest pornography ever. For me at least, it really messed me up because I would always like be in class, right? And then I would always have like fantasies like, oh my gosh, what if like that person over there sucked my pee-pee? It's like, no, obviously that's not realistic and that would never happen in most cases. I would sure hope not. I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one feeling this way. Eventually it just spiraled out of control at some point for other schools because now it's like you hear stories about kids having sex at like 17, 13, 15. It's like, what? And this isn't me like complaining like, oh my gosh, don't have sex, you gotta stay a virgin, because I've fallen victim to it too. Like I'll admit I'm not a virgin. In fact, my body count's a whopping 4 right now. Probably gonna continue going up, sadly, but probably should stop. I really should. It's also like rude at the same time. Here, let me explain. So it's really rude at the same time with like this pressure to lose your virginity in high school because everyone makes fun of you. Like if you're a virgin, you'll be strolling through the hallway. You maybe overhear someone else saying like, oh my gosh, man, I just went down on this girl the other day. It felt so good. Oh my gosh, man, she was sucking my pee. All right, I gotta you couldn't help but have like the fear of missing out. It's like, man, what am I missing out on? Like I'm like, what, 17 and I'm still a virgin? Meanwhile, everyone around me is like 15, 16 losing their virginity. And it's so crazy because back in the day, this would never happen. It was like, I feel like back in like even the 80s, as soon as like the 80s, 40 years ago, or even like the 90s, early 2000s, it's like if you had sex in high school, you were seen as like a demon. Like you are like spawn of the devil. It's like, how dare you have that? You have to wait till you're married. Which I mean, there is valid points to that because obviously you don't want to just like go out having sex with just anyone because you don't know like what type of STDs they have, how they're gonna take it, crazy psychopathic people coming after you. But it's also rude because like as guys, right, you know, we can like one-on-one guy conversation right now. Sorry ladies, but as guys, right, you know, we can have sex and then we can like detach from that person pretty easily depending on what's your body count. That really all depends on that. Obviously, like if you're a virgin and you have sex with someone, you're gonna be like really attached to them. I feel like it affects like women a whole lot more differently. It's like even if it was only planned to just like, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna lose my virginity, that's it. That girl is so much more attached to you now. Like there's so much more attached to that person that they have sex with because that's like a spiritual bond that you're having with someone, but it's just getting like thrown out because you're just like doing it just to do it with that person. And I've fallen victim to this too. I'm not gonna act like I didn't do it either. And it's even like the story on how I lost my virginity. I really am sorry for this because it was entirely my fault because I felt this pressure. So imagine this, right? It's senior year in high school. I'm still a virgin. I'm about like 17, 18 years old. And keep in mind, I went to like a really small school. To give you an image on how small my school is, right? So imagine the amount of seniors you have in your high school or had. Now divide that by 4 and then split it across an entire school. So my entire school was barely more than just 200 kids. My senior class was 20 kids, including me. My entire graduating senior class was 20 students. That is how small my school was. So it's not like I really had options. It's not like in public schools where you can just like completely switch your friend groups. It was not like that at all. It's like I had to deal with the same people every single day for 7 hours a day. So like 8 o'clock to like 3:30 or something. So that led to me, you know, exploring other avenues because I was always hearing about like my friends, they were like losing their virginity around this time, and I felt pressured to do the same thing as well, which I really should not have, but I did anyways because, you know, I'm young and impressionable. I was having FOMO. I was having the fear of missing out. It's like this was something, it's like, man, I really want to experience this too, or else I don't want to be a loser because I feel like a lot of people associate being a virgin with like basement dwellers, you know, it's like Reddit, Discord mod, League of Legends player, virgin. You're a virgin? You must be like a fat loser in his mom's basement or something, which for some people, yes, that is the case, but for most people, no, it's really not that at all. But anyways, right? So me having like almost no options in my school, I decided to turn to like other avenues to like meet new people. So I went on dating apps while like senior year of high school. I feel like a lot of people do that at least once, if you're lonely, that is, like I was. So pretty much, right, I met this girl. I'm not gonna say her name for obvious privacy reasons, but we'll call her, what should we call her? We'll call her Sarah, per se. That's not her actual name. I'm just like making it up. I met up with this girl, Sarah, and you know, we get talking and she tells me like, oh,
I'm 18 and I'm a virgin.
And you know, me being a virgin as well, I was like, oh, whoa, that's crazy because everyone else like my age, they already had like at least like 1 or 2 bodies on them at that point. So she was telling me about this and I'm gonna be honest, like I really just like wanted to not be a virgin anymore because I didn't want to like keep getting like made fun of. It's really stupid now to think about because it's like, really, man, you were so scared about like what other people thought about you for being a virgin, which is like, yeah, I did. Eventually we meet up, you know, we get talking, you know, we build like a little bit of a connection. And I was thinking like, man, you know, I kind of like this girl. She's pretty nice. She has like a good personality. Eventually I say my goodbyes and I leave. Okay. She texts me later. It was really nice getting to meet you and everything. This is where the story gets interesting. So I'm gonna like skip over a bunch of context. So fast forward about 2 weeks. You know, I take her out, you know, we're going on like, you could say like a little date. I guess. Somehow, I don't remember how, but eventually we end up making out in the backseat of my car. I know, gross, ew. And I remember this. She said these words to me. "You're not like the other guys. You're really special to me. And you're not gonna believe what happened after that." We didn't have sex. We didn't do it mainly because we didn't have any condoms, and of course we're not gonna risk having to pay child support at like 18 years old. So, you know, I take her back and I'm just thinking like, man, do I really like this girl that much? And I was thinking like, yeah, man, you know, I like her, you know, because I can get laid. Fast forward a week, it's nighttime, and eventually, somehow, I still don't remember how, but eventually, we end up making out in the backseat of my car again. You know, she's really getting into it. Key component this time, we had I'll spare you guys the details, but you could probably guess like what happened. And as most guys do, I got the post-nut clarity. So for those of you that don't know what post-nut clarity is, pretty much, right? It's really prevalent in like us guys. So whenever a dude, you could say, bust a nut, a few seconds after, we get this overwhelming feeling of like guilt and like disgust. It's like, oh my gosh, ew. I can't believe I just did that. I'm such a disgusting person. I'm horrible. How can I ever recover from this? I'm never doing this ever again. So pretty much I realized I was thinking with my dick, basically. I didn't actually like her, and I was pretty much just using her to like lose my virginity. I felt terrible about this afterward, but eventually, about a week later, I'm in the mood. It's like, I'm horned up. I'm like ready to go. And this girl texts me. She's in the mood too. Long story short, we did it again. And I had the realization for the second time. It's like, wow, I don't actually like this girl. I'm only just using her. And it destroyed me because I knew she felt this connection towards me that I didn't feel back. The guilt just overtook me to where I felt terrible that I wasn't really interested in her. So, you know, how am I gonna like get rid of this person? So I thought like, oh, I'll just like text drier, show it like I'm not really that interested. So, you know, I did. I would text really dry and I would leave her on red a bunch of the time, like a lot of the time, but that didn't work. Sex was like super glue. It's like once you do it with someone, specifically like with women, it's like when you have sex with a girl, she's like super glued to you now because that's like a spiritual bond that you're having with someone. But for us guys, it's just in our DNA to like bang as many chicks as possible, kind of like Genghis Khan type thing. So this went on for like 2 weeks of me just like texting dry and stuff, not really being that interested. And eventually, like, I talked to someone else about this. I talked to like one of my other friends, and they're like, dude, just like disappear. And so I did. I blocked pretty much everyone. I blocked a lot of people off, blocked like a lot of people on my phone and then on Discord as well. She did not take that lightly. I got messages on all sorts of different platforms. It's like, why did you block me? Why did you block me? So you just used me? You just used me? It's like, I didn't originally because I thought I liked her. I thought I liked this girl, but it turns out I didn't. I was really just thinking with my dick. That's what happens with a lot of guys. It's like when sex is in the equation, we tend to just like lose part of our brain. Like it just shuts off. It's like, sex? Oh my gosh. Really? You know, you always hear the phrase all the time where it's like, if there's a hole, there's a goal, pretty much. I felt so much guilt, I couldn't like explain myself, so I continued to block her. And eventually, right, she reached out to me on email, my fucking email of all places. And I just have been blowing her off until eventually she got the message and just went away.
No way! You are a stupid police officer, I hate you! Wait, I have an idea. I will use my diarrhea to make the officer slip and be knocked out so I can get his keys and escape.